Hello, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for taking out your time for joining us today. I see we have very committed small group here together to just make this conversation more interesting and interactive. I'm Khushboo Sharma. I'm a founder and director with a small company integrated marketing agency called Zero Gravity Communications. And just take a minute to tell you who I am. I have been colleague with Sharad in my first job. I started my professional journey with him. I've known him over about 2 decades, almost 2 decades now. I grew up as just a college pass out. The whole metamorphosis of college student to a professional journey had a huge impact, and we've been friends as we move ahead, progressed in our careers. And I have an agency based in Ahmedabad and Bombay, about 150 people team that I started from zero. And on and again, I keep meeting Sharad, and we keep interestingly interact about the ideas of each other's professional and personal growth and journey. And very interestingly, I remember a couple of years back when I visited him in Bombay, he introduced me with the idea and he about what he's doing. And we had always had this common connect with books, and he shared this very interesting story of Mr. Dhananjay. So I would like to introduce our second panel today, Dhananjay sir. So I've met him maybe first time today, but I distinctly remember Sharad explaining his journey about his transformation, about how he inspired with his simple act to recover for his health. And I have a book, and I was just telling today morning that I actually went back, bought it, and read it, and it was really inspiring. And in fact, I have another mentor who just had a cancer scare, and I ended up gifting him another copy of the book. So it's very inspiring. I think the written words have power to reach out to more number of people than we know and then we have come across. So I will not take much in longer, but rather just give a brief bio of Dhananjay Yellurkar. He's basically from Bombay, finance professional, avid marathon runner, and has a journey of heart attack survivor to a global marathon runner, which is truly inspiring. And I think I'll just leave the floor to him to kind of give a little bit of introduction of himself, his journey. And thank you, sir, for giving me a chance to host you and have this interaction. So it would be great if you can just give a little bit about an introduction of your journey and your life to us.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sharad, and thank you so much, Khushboo. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Basically, I just wanted to share my story. This is mainly more about mind over body. Mainly, it is my journey from in the last 15 years, from ICU to running 7 continents and beyond, full marathons in all 7 continents. And it's not a very simple or an easy journey for a non-athlete like me who had basically a heart episode when he was in his mid 40s. So it is a journey of a person who wanted to bounce back and reclaim his life, because once you are in that stage, you are told so many stories, right? You are told that you may not be able to, you slow down, now you'll be on medications, and you just kind of live and survive. And just then basically thank God that you are alive today. But I also have a young family. The nest egg was not built, and it was a tough time. So, what do I do in such a situation but to bounce back and be resilient? So there's always a conflict, the doctors and the medical fraternity have good intentions of slowing you down, but this was not the time for me to slow down. It was time to thrive. So I basically wanted to move beyond survival into doing something much more, just to feel that I am as fit as any 45-year-old person. And the only way I could do was do something extraordinary, which will help me feel good about myself. That was the limited starting goal. I didn't want to I wanted to do something which will kind of give me back my confidence and give me back my dignity, which it was like it was quite shattered. So I didn't feel that I could go back to work. I could be productive again. I could be what kind of a family, father, husband, etc. So this running journey, which started very slowly with a 2 minutes run in the rehab, it culminated into half an hour of run with the nursing station looking at all your parameters, to doing a half marathon within 6 to 7 months of my surgery. But it was a very slow progress. It was very step by step, and it was under guidance of doctors, etc. So it was not something which was very done in a I was under medication. I was taking around 7 to 8 medications. I was recovering. The body was healing. Yet I was putting. It was one step at a time. But yes, it started from there. I did my first half marathon, and since then I've done only full marathons, and I've not only done in India, but I've done in all the 7 continents. It has taken me 15 years to do that. While I was working in a city like Mumbai, I was training, but I did it. And that's why I say it's more mind over body, more of, taking the other option of doing something which I could bounce back with.
So I have this very interesting thought that came when you were saying that it was a very transitional progress for this journey. But even while reading your book, that I thought about it, which was that one moment, or which was that one, or wasn't there any one moment where you felt now is the time that I really need to make change, or how the whole transition of who you were to what you wanted to become came about? And was it like a moment, or it was a process where you continuously told yourself that no, I need to change?
Yeah. It happened basically post the surgery when I came back home. It was a stage which was very difficult because I was crushed physically, emotionally, and mentally. So it was a time when you are extremely low, and you are basically struggling to make sense of what has hit you. At that particular moment, when you see your situation, that you are lying around and you are not what you were meant to be, and you were what has happened in the last couple of weeks. So it is time to reassess. And there's always that, if there's one voice in our head which is saying don't do this, or there are people who are saying don't do this, or medical fraternity saying don't do this, there's also a feeble voice in your mind which says you are resilient, you are capable, you will be able to bounce back. And I don't have any natural abilities of an athlete, but my natural talent is discipline and focus and hard work. So I knew if I could use these attributes, and these are my talents actually, I could bounce back and I could reclaim my life. So it was basically that stage when I was struggling to cope with all what had happened to my body, my mental makeup, my emotional kind of trauma that I was going through.
So there is this last question, and then we just take that introduction with Sharad. But there is this process of realization, which we talked about. But then from the realization to making it sure, consistently being followed through with the help of discipline that you are talking about, I think that's where the real challenge or real effort lies in, because getting start, all of us make resolutions and think of starting something, but the process of making the boring everyday task or everyday efforts continue to go forward is very difficult. With this, I'll move on to Sharad. Sharad, I don't know how to introduce you because I've known you for many different things, as friend, as mentor, as colleague, as elder. I've like we've thrown ideas at you, bounced back, our frustrations when we were young, to learned from you, and some things have been like, shaping professionally very different way. So, how from that journey of being professional from IIM, having a nice professional career, to then becoming, teacher, the thought of becoming a teacher, and now writing a book about brain, about how we think. And I've just finished reading 2 chapters, and it is so amazing. Like, the flow of your writing is so seamless. Like, I'm having a personal conversation with you, and just the way you've been explaining us how to do valuations, or how to read corporate presentations, is just same way the book is flowing, like, one to another. And summarizing like a very nicely a school teacher is summarizing, now this is to here. So it's very ease of understanding how we think, how we control our brain, how we make our brain work is just amazing. So my question to you is, first introduce and then tell us how the idea of the book came about, and how the whole thought came to your mind, and what's the journey so far has been.
Yeah, thank you, Khushboo. So journey-wise, I had a fairly standard journey, a typical engineering MBA and then corporate job, and all going, in a very pretty standard way. Someday you like going to office and someday you don't like, and it's okay. You keep learning and growing, and that's all was happening. But as I was going along, I also had been, interviewing a lot of youngsters, and sometime at the, like I was engaging with you guys, I was also parallelly interviewing youngsters, and I don't know why, but there was something telling me, some things which we are, discussing, at this stage of in our jobs would have been done better at the education system when there was a larger bandwidth available. So that was a thing that was very small at the back of my mind inside. Why are some of these gaps existing, which should have been, not to point a finger to anyone, but I thought these are fairly, easy things and could have been done long back. And then as life was going on, and then I became a father. I had a daughter, and as she started, initially it was all good, and then as she started going to higher standards, and though I'm a pretty hands-off parent that way, but it was not making much sense to me somewhere, what is this way of studying now. Luckily for me, a thing that happened in my career was that, for a very not a very logical personal reason, but some kind of an illogical personal reason, I was very fixated on this thing, is that I will not go out of India. So I resigned from multiple jobs, just because I had to move out, and I was very clear, I will resign but not move. So which meant is that I was changing jobs very frequently. Not frequently as in not every day, but pushes were happening where I was changing jobs, and I was picking whatever was coming my way with only one lens I was looking at, that I should not be sent out of India, kind of thing. Which meant is I actually ended up seeing a lot of part of organizations. I was actually, I started with coding, and then it spent time in quality, and then spent time actually in some bit operations and M&A and investments, and HR, and multiple points I touched pieces here and there, equity research and writing reports and just proposals writing and sales. I was just going here and there, being kicked around sort of way, because I was just fixated on one option of not going out. Now, it was actually, in a way, it was a horrible career option to make out, because I was not getting, into a zone where I can say I'm skilled at this. But from a learning perspective, I think that meandering journey, which I now today feel is very important when you want to learn, you have to be like a river that meanders, is actually taught me something very important about the way things happen, and which also eventually made me realize very early on in my career what we are seeing today is that the world is going to change at an amazing pace sooner or later, because I could see different bits and pieces of organization and was seeing firsthand the changes happening. Which meant was when I saw my daughter educated almost the way I was getting educated, it was becoming clear in my head that this education is not going to serve any purpose. And that I think was a trigger that became very strong in my mind, that I was again and again and again coming to this point of saying is this education is not making sense, and I could not understand why should it be like this. And otherwise I'm a very laid back character, but sometimes I love solving puzzles, but sometimes when some puzzles attract my attention, I cannot hold on to them, I have to solve them. Yeah. And that's this puzzle of education that I could not hold on, which made me actually quit my job literally on the whim of a moment, come out of it, and start trying to figure out why is this happening, why is education not serving its purpose despite things improving, the other things improving. And that led to multiple serendipitous encounters, which eventually brought me to a point. The most interesting of them was the first 5 children who came in my life. In fact, the first child whom I engaged with was actually Dhananjay's son only, and it was out of the blue I got a call and it started. And that's how out of the blue I got 5 calls in 2016 and started with no expectations from my side or from anyone's side. We started on a journey which was probably the best unconventional education setup that could have been given to me. And that's where my life turned forever, because those 5 children actually taught me for the first time some very deep lessons. And the biggest lesson I learned from them was the power of a child. We all talk about children, they are creative, they are smart, they are energetic, they are always having fun, enjoyment. None of them is wrong, all of them apply to child. But beyond all that, a child is a living, breathing Einstein. And it's so difficult to see that part in them if you don't experience it. And the reason I was able to experience it, because I was given a setup where parents very clearly told me that you don't have to come and teach them anything, you have to teach them what they want to learn. And each of this child had a very specific requirement. Like Dhananjay's son was crazy about time travel and universe and going to different galaxies and those kinds of things. And I had no idea about these things except knowing some movies and some fantasy. And here was a child asking me questions, scientific questions about it. So that's the kind of children I got. Another was a 7-year-old child who was a walking encyclopedia on dinosaurs. I mean, I didn't know any dinosaur till I met him, except the T-Rex of the Jurassic Park. So these 5 children in the most, softest, empathetic hands crushed my ego, taught me my education is useless, and brought me to a point of, at that point in time, it was one of the most frustrating and dark phases of my life. But it actually, over a period of time, slowly morphed into a very deep learning of realizing that child is really the father of man. And that's where I think this book also is eventually about, about my way of paying my respect to children, which is why I say in the introduction itself, it's a book of children, for children, and by children. It was entirely written by children. It was like a learning that they impressed upon me, telling me very softly, empathetically that you know nothing, so learn from us. So that's the long and short of, how I came to become a teacher, because the journey was not designed, thankfully, by my own intellect, because otherwise I've gone stray. It was designed by universe for me to see me the power of what a child is all about.
So from that journey to writing a book, what made you kind of, so I'm just holding a copy of my copy of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I never honestly, Khushboo, thought of writing a book, because I can talk reasonably well, but writing is not my forte. I can, in fact...
I disagree with you over there, because I've seen your writing, I've seen your... See, writing is a byproduct of thinking. If your thinking is very clear, writing is going to reflect it. Let's not go to literary aspect of writing and more poetic.
That's what I'm trying to say. My writing is quite grammatically bad. And in fact, one of the things, like when you said that you felt as if it's a teacher teaching me, because the entire book is written in a first language. I mean, as a first person talking, which is not
Sure.
a typical writing style. Typically, books are written in third persons. So one of the
Absolutely.
feedback very early on when I wrote and showed a manuscript to a friend was this only, ki, you're it's like literally teaching and all that. But I said I don't know how to write. I'm actually, because this book is what I teach my children, what children has taught me. So I'm actually just literally recording my class and writing down. It's actually the notes that I took of all the classes, because I used to always go to a class and these children will always ask me questions to which I can fool around with them, but in honesty I knew that there is no answer I have. So they will always leave me with lot of questions. I'll come back and search. So I used to take very lot of notes. I love taking notes actually. I'm a voluminous note taker if I really want to do it. So those notes, which were literally recording of what transpired in the class, actually became a book. So that's why it's in a first person. It was not decided to write a book. I wrote a book almost because I was at some point almost contemplating, 6 months. I was not sure how long will I be able to survive as a teacher in the way that I want to be a teacher. So I actually, almost wanted this book to be a closure to my teaching journey, saying is at least I leave something behind that I think is really meaningful. If someone wants to read it, read it. I don't know when will I, how, if I will ever be again in this life, come back to be again a teacher, which I really love doing. So this book is actually a serendipity, letting it take shape, and then at some point I getting frustrated enough to say, let me do at least this much so that at least I can say I'm putting a closure to one thing that I love doing.
So I'll come to the to you and Dhananjay both. My next question is that both of you have in last 6 to 10 years experienced something very dramatic that brought a change in what you were doing professionally into a very different trajectory. Even if you continue doing your professional life, the personal life had a different dimension and different learning, different kind of perspective to life, and that rechanged or reshaped your journey to who you are and how you transformed yourself. And both of you have tried to put that journey over a period of experience into a book. The whole process of discovery to realizing that now this discovery and these learnings need to go onto paper. I would want both of you to share that and how there are professionals who get up one day, think of a topic, find inspirations, and write very nice poetic stuff. And now we have ChatGPT, which can do the job of grammar to paraphrasing to whatever we say, and we'll be able to do it. But what they can't do is the real thinking and original thinking and using the tools and technology. And today kids, which are at times coming and saying, like, there was a time that even my daughter comes to me end of the day, says, oh, I need this for school, can you just blink it? That makes me think that we would wait for our parents to come home end of the day and just tell them, please, I need this for my school. And then he'll say, by end of the day, kahan se aayega? You should have told me 2 days before. Like, I'll get it next day. From that to today, a child says that we know this gets it in 10 days, 10 minutes. So it's not technology only. The child who is growing up in this era, their thinking, their understanding, their learning, their sense of discipline, their sense of processing, their sense of understanding the world is very different. As I work with 20 something these days at work, I understand they come from very different thought process to us. So definitely a child which is in 0 to 5 or a 10 age is very different. So how you both are thinking of translating your learning curve to a book, and what do you think is the way forward if we want to be not lost in the way or momentum of growth and technology in a fast moving world, still hold on to original ideas, great thinking, and using our brain to its potential? I'll start with Dhananjay. I know my question is a little more elaborated, so I'll leave that to you to interpret and tell us how you fit it in.
Yeah. Like Sharad, I too didn't have any background of writing. The only writings were at work. So, but what has happened was, I thought my story needed to be kind of propagated, or at least go into the hands of people who really required it. Because when I was going through this struggle, there were very few stories about how do you bounce back or how do you navigate out of this situation. The only stories that were there were people who could not survive it, or it was very immediate, or somebody who was little on the older side. So I was grappling with it myself. So I thought that I should write about my experiences in the form of a memoir, so that it can maybe help anyone, even if few people it helps. It will be important because it is more than just medication and physical well-being. The book also talks about mental well-being. It also talks about process. It also talks about how do you find a balance between when you're working, and you're doing a endurance level activity like running, and how are you doing it every week of your life, whether it's raining, whether it's very hot, whether it's very humid, and the roads are dug up, but yet you're finding time to take out this kind of 1 hour, 2 hour physical endurance before going to work. How do you manage all the things and being a parent? So it's a delicate balance, and it can be done. And and if you do that, the world really is like a oyster. It will, your body is amazing, everything falls in place. So I thought I should be sharing this story, so it will help. It's not just about the glamour part of running in Berlin and New York City or Antarctica or Gold Coast or something. It's much more than that. Of course, that adds to the glamour part of it, but it's much more than that. It's an internal journey. It's not more external journey. It's an internal journey of how my growth happened from a physically crushed human being to being an athlete known to have run in all 7 continents. And now, cumulative, I have run more than 20,000 odd kilometers in 15 years. It's like running from the North Pole to the South Pole. So, and that too just by running in Mumbai. So you can imagine what all you can achieve in this life. And that was a very important story to tell, because anybody can get into any health ailments anytime in their life, especially during the peak of their career. But if such stories are presented to them, it's also a way for them to navigate out of this situation. And it's not just a story, this is something which I have lived. And it's also about hard work. It's not just about fantasizing about some concept. It is actually doing the dirty, hard work for 15 years. And it is possible. And it is amazing that when you do that, where you have reached from what you were. So it is something that I wanted to share, and hence the book.
Yeah. So just tell us, the writing the book, was it like difficult to, because most of the time what you rightly said that we as a nation, we as, like, coming to what Sharad says, education system, we don't teach writing skills. We have these nice essays and poems and prose that we ask in English literature for kids to write, but we don't tell them how to articulate, how to journal yourself, put your thoughts on paper. Like, I don't see schools putting effort on asking kids that, how do you interpret your own emotions? How do you express those emotions? How do you communicate that? Because
Right.
it's all about that as a journey. So did you get a help, or who helped you with the whole journey and process of getting the book out? If you can just share with us.
Yes, I wrote during the COVID time, during the first phase of COVID, because I was so used to getting up at 4:35 in the morning and doing my runs. So I wanted to continue with this habit of waking up early, though I could not run outside, or the physical activities were constrained. I thought I should be using the same discipline and focus that I used on running to write the book. So I thought that this was the best time for me to pen my thoughts. It was all over the place initially. I mean, since I'm not a born writer or something, it was all over the place. But I did an online course of how to write a memoir, and then that gave me a basic framework of how to build a chapter, what all key points you need to communicate in the chapter, how do you tie it to the next chapter, etc., and build a story arc. So once I had the framework, it was easy to, I knew what thoughts I wanted to
put it in. Yeah.
In one chapter. If it was about Antarctica, it was not just about the geographical aspects, but what was going on in my mind, what was happening to my body, what was happening to my emotions. And basically, I also keep a log of each of my runs and what I'm feeling and all those things. So it was easy for me to translate because I had the material back, but I just didn't have the framework to put it in place. And I was doing one chapter randomly, like today I'll write up, but I did not give up. Even if it was writing one paragraph in a day or one page in a day, I didn't give up, like running. And within 2 or 3 months, the book was ready. The first draft was ready. I myself was surprised. But I would get up every day at 4:30. I would just open my laptop and just write at least one page, one paragraph, whatever. And it just happened that way, So
commendable. It's inspiring. I trust me. I hear a lot of people saying that I need to have a book. I have this thought. I have this idea. I want to start running. I want to get fitter. I want to do this. And we just keep on going and talking about it. But one part that I took it from the book, I took it from your earlier speeches and interviews, resilience, discipline, and what it brings to your life as a process has been a very commendable. With your journey and the way you have put it in the book, it's fabulous. I would take the question and the same question to Sharad. Sharad, how would you describe your journey to get this book out?
See, I would actually add something more to what like Dhananjay said, and that's I think the key thing here is getting up every day and writing it. See, we are actually all brought up in a world where the way we work is that we set a goal and walk towards it, and it starts right in our education system. I mean, you every year you have your formative and a summative, and timelines are decided, and you study for that. And you see, all of us do it. I mean, one night before the exam, 1 week before the exam, you study and you give your exams and pass. Because the whole focus is on that one thing that you're working towards. It can be that exam, that board exam, that entrance exam, that job, that appraisal cycle that is there. So the thinking is very system, and it is promoted. It is, I'm not saying anything wrong with it, but it is probably taken too much out of it, that you set a goal and walk towards it. Everyone teaches you to look at the goal and walk towards it. I think we miss out completely one thing in the process, and I was very much like this. I mean, I am trying very hard to reduce this. I am that kind of a planner who even for his own holiday also will book probably his train tickets or flight tickets and hotel tickets and autos and taxis and route planning 4 or 6 months in advance. Every holiday is literally like it's like a drawn out plan for me. That's how I was. I mean, even today, if you open my phone, there is a reminder set for exactly 4 months before the Diwali vacation of my child starts, so that I can book the train ticket and I will not get it. For last 15 years, exactly 4 months before, I'll get my train ticket and I travel. It never happens that I don't have a ticket to travel. So I'm that kind of a person. So I was completely ingrained in this thinking of putting that end point and working out a plan towards it. And it works. I'm not saying it does not work. It does make your life easy. It does make your life predictable. You're not scampering for a ticket in the last moment. It does work. But that's the fun part of life is that the most meaningful journeys that you have to undertake, you cannot plan them. You will know nothing what will come out in the end. You will not even know what will you achieve. You yet have to walk that path. And that's where it comes out to be, get up every day in the morning and just show up. So my entire education journey, I had no idea what I'm doing. It was something tugging at my heart again and again. And it was more of an ego fighting the battle because the child whom I would have never thought is knows too much, and here I was always wearing the pride on my sleeve that I know so much science and I know this and I know that, and here is a 8-year, 9-year, 10-year-old child, very honestly and in a simple way, telling me that you are stupid. You just don't know this, but you want to throw your weight around. So okay, if you want to throw your weight around, I will listen to you. But if you honestly want to reflect on it, you don't know it. So, for me, it was that simple process, like Dhananjay is, go to every class, almost like, you go to the class, after every class, especially the first 1.5 year was like a torture to my, ego. Because every class was like giving an exam and coming out with an F grade, literally. So, but you still turn up, you keep turning up. I was luckily not able to be at that point, because I said I was lucky to get the classes in such a setup that I didn't have a way of going back to the parents and complaining or trying to throw my weight around. So what happened was, I only was left with one option, is either to find a way, excuse and close the class, or turn up every class, get kicked and come back, turn up, get kicked and come back. And I think that's what made all the difference. I think it's not so much about goal. If you have that, for whatever reason, if you can muster up this ability to turn up every day and keep doing that small bit. I mean, in my book also, I cover that example. It's a very famous example of the French cycling, the British cycling team, which actually over the last 6 or 7 decades never won anything. And then they had a coach whose only simple principle was pick up hundreds of small things and make a small change in them and follow it every day. And they did it over a couple of years, and from a loser completely team to they actually became, I think some 7 out of 10 Olympic medals and something like that happened. So that's that very key thing that, I learned out of thing. It's not about the goal. There is too much of goal fixation that goes about. It's about the process. It's just about the sheer process of doing the same thing again and again and again every day with faith. So I think I just some days back also I wrote a post and I said that, when you want to take a meaningful journey on life, your boat actually is your confusion. Your oar is your faith, and the river is the journey on which you have no control. So you have to be confused. You need to have faith, and you just have to keep rowing on the oar, use your oar every day. And if you do that, magic happens. Now, it's very easy to say that. I could have never done it. For me, it was a clear serendipity luck that made me do it, because my ego got harmed that I wanted to sort of get it back, which made me turn up every day in trying to survival mode kicked in. Had that not kicked in, I would have not done this. But now I know. And this is what, the tenacity of a child is, which I learned from children. Every day they will do the same thing. You look at a small child playing in the sand or doing something, the younger the child, the better it is all about. It's not about the goal. It's not about the flower. It's not about the sunset. I tell parents many times, child comes and asks you a question, why is the sun yellow in the afternoon and orange in the mid? And you get into a science discussion. What you don't realize is what you saw as a question mark was just an exclamation or a sign of wonder. Just hold on yourself. Why are you running into this journey? It's a process. Learning is a process. So my famous quote, a very quote that I love was said by this famous astronomer, Carl Sagan, and he said that science is a way of thinking and not a body of knowledge. For me, learning is all about developing a way of thinking. And a huge element of that way of thinking is just turning up every day and doing the thing again and again and again. That integral part is all about thinking. And if you do that, I think that's where the life unfolds itself in beautiful colors.
So that's so commendable. So when we are talking of the process of discipline, process of showing up daily, process of discipline, in the world that we live in, we tend to get distracted, we tend to get derailed, we tend to get, divided with our attention so fast today. How did you both found the core of your focus? So for me, the journey is very different. I have to keep realigning myself because I get distracted very fast. Like, even if that's a meeting, the conversation has to be really interesting for me to have a full attention over there. Even today, my co-director keeps coming and saying that I could see you are not there. I said, yeah, because it was just nonsense happening. I don't know, just have to be there, so I'm physically there, but otherwise mentally I'm not there. And in that part, how do you like? I know I have my internal system where I know when I lose my focus and when I need to get back, and it's a constant work that I have to do it with myself. Um, how have you both found the way to get your focus back into this process, this journey, this discipline? And I also get called many times, many of the interactions where it's not about marathon, it's about just sprints. Take those sprints right, and but losing focus is one thing that all of us suffer very major way. And I'm not kidding, but I run digital ad agency, and the kind of numbers we get from social distraction, gadgets, things around. Not talking of our generation, I'm talking for kids specifically. It's very easy to today. People call it doom scrolling, mindless scrolling. It's distraction, it's relaxation, but it's not. It's basically you feeding your mind continuously the data, the information, the content that you're not looking for, that you didn't ask for, that you don't want, still, and that derails you, that takes your focus away. So focus is one thing that I see both of you have achieved to do what you've achieved, and how you guys have cracked that code.
Yeah. So it is difficult. It's not easy at all, and it takes some time to get into that zone. But how I did it was, when I'm running, say, I I'm running solo, and I run without listening to music. So I prefer it that way. I do not have anything to distract me. So suppose if I'm running for 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours on a weekend, so out of which 3 hours my mind is quite blank. I have memory only of one step behind and one step ahead. I do not know where I came from, where I parked my car. It is all, I don't think about work or my pet or my family or my finances or anything. Nothing crosses my mind. It is quite in a blank flow state, I would say. It is something which is, of course, I know that the rickshaw is coming and the car is taking a U-turn and all those kind of things I know, but the mind is particularly blank. And when I come back from the run, it is very refreshing, and it's like meditation to me. So once your mind starts getting used to this kind of an enrichment, it starts craving for more and more. So I do that on a regular basis. I have been doing it for 15 years now. I started running in the hospital, but then I ran with a group first, but now I've been running solo for last 15 years. And that is something which has brought that focus, and it is also given me a lot, because it is like, it is mainly about intrinsic motivation, because when I'm doing my runs and coming back, or nobody is there to clap for me, nobody is there to give me a medal, it's not like a marathon that whether people are cheering you. You're doing this weekly, you're doing 30 to 40 kilometers, but you are not seeking anything from anybody else. It is all coming from within, that I'm happy. I'm not competing with anybody. I don't have any, I'm not running at my pace. I don't want to outrun anybody. I know what I'm doing. I know what my mind is doing, and I'm very, very comfortable with that. So it is something that now it has become my identity. And once it becomes your identity, it's very difficult to remove it from who you are. It's like a lot of people say, how can you run for 15 years? And I say it is my identity as a runner now. I mean, it's like being a father or being a husband. You can't say that I'll be a husband only for 1 month of the year and rest of the time I'll be bachelor. It cannot be. You become that. like a father, that because before the child is born, you don't know anything about fatherhood, but you become a father. Similarly, about any athlete who is consistent with what he is doing, he becomes that person. I am a runner, so I can't think beyond that. So focus, discipline. I know if I don't apply to that, my identity will wither away. So I will do everything possible, whether it's sleeping on time. I have to sleep at 10 o'clock because I know it will impact my run. I have to eat the right things. So it is not by a regimen or something. I know the benefits that accrue from it. So that's how I have done my focus, and it has given me benefits which I cannot even describe.
You putting it more like the process of focus has become like an habit for you.
Yes, yes.
So even
It's like brushing.
yeah.
I cannot think of her not being physically active. I mean, it is just, it's part of me. It's not different from me.
Great. So, just a quick takeaway is like you're trying to say that focus is something that you don't have to do it like a one time. It's a continuous thing that you have to keep working on,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you do it so regularly that it becomes a part of your process, sort of.
Yeah. What is little sorry to come in here. What is little difficult is, to strike a balance, because at work also you need to be focused, but that is goal driven, target driven, bonus driven, increment driven, and it is external motivation which is driving you, whereas this is completely internal motivation that is driving you. So how do you strike a balance? It is schizophrenic to operate in a world which is pushing you towards external motivation when you're striving very hard for the internal motivation. So it is for you to have that balance, and I think once you strike it, I think you are at peace.
Great, amazing insights, Sharad. We would take your version of how you are achieving the focus. I think you've always been very focused guy, that I know. But so pardon it, because I've worked as a subordinate with him for a good few years, so a lot of learnings have come from that, and he's been pretty disciplined, that I know. But focus is again, it's a wrong question to be honestly asking you. You don't work in a world where you are distracted. Like, I think you made your whole social profile because of the book later on, lately. But people like us who work in the world of distraction, like even I can't say I can't be distracted. I will not be on social media. I'll not be doing this. I'll not be doing that, because that's part of work. When there's a rule that I've tried to do, that I'm going to finish one book a week, and that just the sort of a last almost 7 years discipline, that one book a week needs to finish, and if it doesn't get finished, then next week I have to read 2 books. Punish or tell yourself that you have to do it. And I read fiction, so it's not achieving some goal, or it's not scientific paper and all, but those are the things that I do to bring myself to concentrate, focus, not get distracted, to not have urge to pick up my phone, to not think or wonder about the clients and work and other things. Because like Sharad said rightly, that we're so goal setting, that professionals are more about targets, numbers, next holiday, next vacation, next saving. So we're always constantly chasing this goalposts in our life, and we only build it, or sometimes it's internal, sometimes it's influenced by external people or external things or demands and all of it. How do you bring in focus for yourself in that, Sharad? You must be having your own challenges. Please tell us.
Absolutely. I mean, I would want to say first one thing is, in fact, I remember I wrote a very funny post on this also some time back, and my theme is basically focus is not what you work for. So you don't say I have focus and now I'm going to focus on this. Focus is actually an outcome of something that you do. So you don't start saying I am going to focus on this thing. You start doing a thing and focus emerges from there. So focus is an outcome, not an input, the way I look at it first thing. The second thing I want to say is, two ways I would look at is why many times focus gets, go away. See, we actually pay attention all of us pay a lot of attention to what are called as the nouns of life. Things that, simple nouns, your animal, place, animal, things, that kind of thing. Things which are tangible. Our lives are designed against tangible things. So, a career, a job, a certain increment, a bonus, a certain certificate, a certain medal, or certain things. They are the nouns of our life. They're important. They do control our life. The challenge happens is when the nouns of life take a huge control over the adjectives of life. The meaning of life, the purpose of life, your inner satisfaction, your being able to take a step back and be at peace even in a loss and all that, comes only when you have given enough relevance to adjectives of life, right? So one of the things, like when I teach many times talk to parents also, is every parent will say, I want my child to learn well. So you are putting your attention on an adjective, right? You can't measure learning well. It's not tangible. But if you ask them, how do you want to learn well, then the question goes to which entrance exam, which grade, and which. So we are always trying to convert our adjectives into nouns because adjectives are very difficult to grapple with. That's what life is all about. To me, this is how I look at it. So life is meaningful if you have the right adjectives in place. But to make sense of them, we have to put them into a noun. Otherwise, they become so difficult for us to grasp sometimes. I think what happens is over a period of time, this tendency and then life feeding in itself leads to a point in time where you get so focused on adjectives. Like you would have seen in organization, a certain form is made, a certain process is made. It mindlessly gets followed when the times have changed, the customers have changed, some things have changed, but the same phone will continue. Even if there's an online system, you still want a hard copy to be filled up. Because there is a certain, adjective was there converted into a process, and now you're stuck to that noun and you just can't think anything beyond that. So first thing I say is, many times mistake happens is when we forget that our North Star of life is the adjectives. Nouns are just a way of reaching that North Star. Sometimes because the nouns are so tangible, we lose sight of them, then pole star, and keep working without realizing that these things are not going to take us towards our pole star. So every few days, few weeks, few months, it's always good to ask yourself, what's that adjective for which you're working for? It can be simple, I want to learn well, I want to be happy inside. It can be anything. Think if your steps are actually taking you towards that adjectives. So an organization can have a philosophy, it can have a process, but we should not get so stuck with the process that we forget that no process can ever successfully replicate a philosophy. Philosophy is your North Star, your adjectives are your North Star. Please don't forget them. That's the first very big thing I would want to say. And I, as an individual, has this huge tendency to my wife is irritated with me. I mean, the simplest of the things, I can ask a question which is too philosophical. I can go on and on and on and on about something sometimes. So that's one thing I really feel helped me. The second thing is what I always say is the oft-quoted thing is, it's your journey which is the learning. Right? It's not the end point. So what happens is we are born with a way of thinking which is pristine. For the first few years of our life, there is no one who tampers with us. The parents don't tell you anything. At best, they'll tell you eat on time, sleep on time, and then you're free to play the way you feel like. You can go and read, enough amount of literature is available which will teach you why free play is probably the best way for children to learn. A directed, structured games or play never teaches a child anything deeper. If we can actually, a child, if you look at all that thing we are craving in life, happiness, honesty, just an inner satisfaction, an intrinsic motivation, no worry about medals, but work on it. Child is born with all of these things. They already do exactly that thing. No child ever starts making a toy house or something because someone is going to give a Nobel Prize for that. And they make it and their happiness is always far bigger than us. Because there is a way they think. The challenge what happens is our education and parenting system are designed by adults for an adult way of thinking. And that's, to me, is a fundamental flaw. That's why no matter how much we change, everything still remains the same. You are continuously tampering, changing, making the systems with an adult way of thinking. You're not designing in the way the child thinks. And that's what I have tried in a very small way to capture in this book. This is how we were born thinking. This is how a child very instinctively thinks. If we can continuously focus on the process and not on that goal, but be on that process, which is a natural thinking style, it gets your attention back to the thing that you are actually craving for. So one of the things that, someone has written in the chat that Jairaj has said that, we get bored. We get bored because the process that we follow sometimes is not that can give you joy. For a child, the process and the philosophy, they are just one and the same. He's in the moment, his all senses are working together, that thing makes everything. And when you are in that moment, his philosophy of life, of being happy, and the way he's doing being happy, they are so aligned that you can't see a difference. So that's what I learned a big way from children. We lose focus, we get distracted, we try to do all the things of taking a digital detox and trying to do this and trying to do that. I'm not saying they're wrong. We need sometimes, we should do them. But I think we should go back more often than not, ask ourselves what's our objectives of our life and what's our process that we follow. Is our process childlike? Is it simple? Is it something that can give us? And that's where I think, like I said, starting maybe the power of being a child. I think in a different word, it's a power of simple living. It's a very simple word and simple line to say. And that's why it is so difficult to do that it takes probably life and multiple lives to do it. But that's how we were born. So that's North Star we should never forget. We have been there. We have done it. We know how it is to be happy. We know how to be in the moment. We know how to follow a process. We all know it. What it requires is to step back and listen to our heart. Because brain at this point will not help you. It will keep taking you to the nouns of life, which are going to be a pain in the long run. Always. So that's what I would do, Khushboo. I had always before sleeping asking myself, what am I doing in life? And I've been asking this question for as long as I can remember. And I think it has helped somewhat. Somewhere it has nudged me into a direction which was meant to me. And then at some point, I was very diligently following a process that my heart says makes sense. So I kept taking notes. I kept listening to children because somewhere there was a voice that says, these guys know how to do it. I don't know. So let me follow that trail and walk that path. And that's where, the book happened, my journey happened, my focus on the process happened. Now I do like this only. I just ask myself, what's my objective? Am I missing it? And I just go back to the same process that child told me. And I think that's for me works. It gets my focus back. It keeps my life simple. And I don't have much to, there are hundreds of other things that go wrong. But, in that moment, my life remains simple, I know. And it makes sense to a lot of to me.
Thank you so much. It's very interesting, and like you were saying, I was just making some notes with that because it's more about collecting insights and your experiences. We've done hours and hours of discussion, and I make time to meet you only because that those discussions are more meaningful than sometimes that when we meet professionals or work colleagues or those mindless social hanging, and it seems so empty at times where we are just passing the time. We are just sometimes living through the life without even realizing the purpose and why we exist. You both have just the last segment of the today's our talk. You both have that journey of identifying or realization in Sharad's case, even to Dhananjay sir's case, that identifying or realizing because of external factors that there's a need, there's a gap, there is a way, or there is some transition or change needed in the way you think, the way you act, the way you go by your life, and you guys made that change. You bought that change with the discipline, with resilience, with sort of focus, with sort of attention and kind of fighting your own challenges to find your own way to reach there, to achieve in whatever way you guys have described. But how do you find balance in that? Like it's like I said, it's not easy. Like Sharad, you've been achieving something which is we've had this conversation, and first time even it took me 1.5 hours to understand what you meant by teaching. I have two kids in school, and I was just kind of rethinking that how my kids are studying and what they are studying and do they understand and how are they going to do it and what is it and not. So it's difficult subject, and not just me. I think you must have got rejections. You must have got a lot of criticism, a lot of demotivating version, and external factors are not easy to ignore. It's easy to say in a 1 hour call that I fought with it and I found my way, but I know it's not easy. Like when I started my agency and I went there and I said I'm not coming from advertising. I'm basically an engineer. आपने किया नहीं है कभी. How are you going to do it? Now that I have 300 plus projects done, I go to somebody and still somebody tells me, but you've not done my kind of work. So, how are you going to do it? So the questions remain, the doubts are always going to come in whatever we are trying to do. Dhananjay sir, for you, it would be one to another marathon, another, like your last chapter had this whole weather, going to a very different continent where it's very difficult to do it. And the challenges are there. And then doctors, family come and say, "Arey, your health might get bad. Don't do this. Abhi kar liya na itna, और कितना करना है." I've heard this so many times. "Oh, you've done achieved this much. It's okay. Be happy. Limit yourself." So we live in the world of a constant social validation, constant social approval, social criticism, and in that, finding your balance is not everyone can do it. How do you guys, both of you, do that? Let's take that as a last segment for today's talk.
Yeah, I think I count my blessings because, like when you said, I would not have been here today if it was not for the immense support given by my wife and my children, because it's not easy because we live in a society where everybody says, "Oh, why is somebody doing that? He should be, he has responsibilities. He should be not running when he just had a surgery." So it requires of course, I am doing the running part of it, but it requires a lot of support from my family, and there I have to be really, really thankful that my wife has been extremely supporting, and so has been my children. So finding the balance that way, then it becomes much more critical, because you are doing what you like at one particular time, which is very personal, and you are also doing something as a householder, you're also doing something as an employee. So you have to have your boundaries in place at that moment, because like I partitioned my day, like morning goes to running, or weekends morning goes for longer running, then then comes the work, then the weekends with the family or something like that. At work also there were boundaries. It is difficult because everybody thinks that in particularly Indian work atmosphere, where everybody thinks that working late or working very long hours means you're an extremely good employee. Whereas here we know that I have to leave work maximum by 8 o'clock because I have to sleep at 10 o'clock. People it's not easy, and people think that, that this is something, you are not a good professional. But you have to find your kind of boundaries very well, because you know what is acceptable for you. You know that you are doing the well, whatever you were thought about as a professional, as a career person, and your own time. So once you make those kind of distinction, I think it is everybody supports you in the end. They all fall in place, but of course you have to do the heavy duty lifting and prioritizing. So finally, it's all about prioritizing, and like in running, prioritizing. Here it's about practice and more practice. So yes, it's a fine balance, but you can achieve it, and it is not an impossible task.
Sharad, your version of it. Sharad, sir, it put It's all about discipline. Even in balance, I find him talking about discipline. It's just such a plain, simple directive sort of it. And I get you. But trust me, even I've had this journey where so many people say, as a woman who, not going to the gender discussion, but even today, it's difficult for women to do the same set of things or professional achievements as men, because we are socially wired to think like certain things at home are supposed to be taken care by women, kids in certain way are to be taken care, not everywhere, but the whole idea is still pretty much there. But so sometimes when somebody asks me how do you do that, I say there has to be a support system. You cannot be doing it. It cannot happen if I work for 14 hours that somebody else is not taking care of my kids or my home, or somebody else is not supporting when I'm traveling or when I'm working that extra hard that I have to and all. So obviously I think that home support system is the critical in achieving anything in life, professionally, personally. And I think we don't talk enough about it. We don't appreciate enough about it, and we are not vocal about it. Sharad will agree with me, because even both of us, we've had our journey with our spouse where they started something and we're there supporting them and all. So it's impossible today to be in a family system, to be in a social system and not have enough support to push in you that you can achieve, go out of comfort zone and do something. It's not about normally doing a job and it. So definitely, I kind of vouch that, and I'm the contender for it. So I totally
my
get
family is my biggest support, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also at work, I would say I found support, because people shy away from saying that they had a medical condition, because they feel that they will be left out, they will not be given opportunities. And that's how the structure of the corporate is. They think that this is no longer a productive employee. He will not be able to take responsibilities. He cannot do this kind of work. So you have to fight a lot of stigmas, and like how a woman has to do that. Similarly, a person because people are not used to the fact that somebody has a medical condition, but they can be professional, they can be as good as anybody else. So that's a line that I think that's where my story becomes more, I think, to be shared with everybody.
Definitely. Sharad, what's your version of balance?
Honestly, I mean, I think there is not much to add on. No one does it alone, and your family is obviously they are the first one to support you, especially on these
crazy ideas.
These kinds of journeys which have no head and tail. There is no one who will be holding your hand, because rest everything will be.
I'll tell you a very interesting version of it. It gets very crazy, and it's an offbeat. When my husband quit his job and we moved from Bombay to Ahmedabad 7 years back, while he was offered a job to move to UK, there's a part of family who said that his IIT degree must be fake. And the company discovered, he's fired, and that's why he's moved to a smaller town. Because who moves from Bombay to Ahmedabad to start a life, Who leaves the metro city? And it was, I don't know, to laugh, to kind of, what you take out of it. But we are so constrained with stigmas. We are so preoccupied with our version of, what's success, what's failure, what's education, what's grading, what's marks, what is the ideal life of it. And I think both of you have just broken that mold in your own way, and that's very inspiring. Dhananjay, I've found your book, I found your journey through Sharad. It's been amazing before meeting you, reading your journey, and I think I had to refresh, I had to remember, because now, over a period of time, you vaguely remember the story arc. You don't know the details, or you don't remember the details, and I was like, oh my God, I don't have book with me, I'm traveling, I can't kind of figure it out. But I remember architect part of it. I remembered running in the rains part of it, that the challenges that you kind of had. So it's very inspiring, and I'm so glad to get an opportunity to kind of host you both. Sharad, thank you for thinking of me. And I don't think I limit here. I know you personally. I'm going to pick your brains a lot every time I meet you. I think anybody from the audience would want to ask any questions or something, we can give it a shot. Like, they can just unmute themselves, ask a quick question to either of them, or we can just call it, or you would like to summarize, Sharad, and then we can call it talk.
I would actually just add one thing here is, and we can probably, until unless there are any questions, I can actually wait.
Yeah, so I'll just wait for anyone to raise hands if they have.
Because we're actually.
Yeah, there is Mr. Krishnan. Yeah, so I'll unmute him. Sharad, can you unmute him?
Yeah, please go ahead, Krishna.
You'll have to unmute him.
No, he can.
You're the host.
No, I can't. He has to unmute himself.
Oh, is it?
Yes. Mr. Jepu Krishna Rao, if you can ask your question. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so I just maybe add one thing is, it comes to the same thing is, I think one lesson that children have taught me many times is keep things simple. It's easy to say that. So just to give an example, there was a point in time, couple of years back, when I was, struggling whether I should even do this because I'm hardly able to earn anything. How do I carry forward? And that struggle has not changed for me. But at one point I got frustrated and I said, I just want to give it up. Why should I do all these kinds of things which no one cares about? And, I was once sitting with my son who would be probably just 5-6 years old at that point in time. And I just casually asked him, what do you think I should be doing? He said, what's the problem? So I said, I want to teach. I love teaching. That's what I am. But, I don't think people are interested in me. So should I be teaching or not teaching? Should I just give up and just go and get a job and forget about all these things? He said, okay, but why are you giving up? I said, how long will we run like this? 𝒘𝒂𝒍𝒌? I'm running out of money. I can't do things like this more enough if people are not really interested in me. So he said, so you're doing this because you're not able to earn enough. I said, yes, that's one of the big reasons. If I'm not able to earn enough, what's the point of doing it? Eventually, I have my own work responsibility. So he thought for a few seconds and then turned around to me and say, but that's the real test. And he just left the room. So, sometimes when you're off balance, one advice I always give to, parents, or if you have an excess, go to a 5-year-old child and ask you the most difficult question. And it may be a one-liner answer, and that will get your balance correct. So that moment when I was all about giving up, he just told me, but that's the test. And I said, yes. If I can't pass this small test to convince myself that I'm doing something useful, I'm not doing this because I'm proving anything to the world. I'm doing this because I like doing it. If I can't stand my own test, then what's the point of? I can't be running around external medals. I have to run around my internal medals. So that's the simple thing I would want to say is life is that simple. If you can simplify things inside you, well, good, but it's very difficult. If not, find a 5-year-old child and ask your question. He will get you to balance if you are willing to respect him and listen to his or her thoughts. So that's a big part of my life. Children have given me that balance whenever I've lost track. Just reminding me the lessons are really simple. We just lose it because we have complicated life to such an extent that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yes, so that's the
best thing that I've heard in a long time. And I think we don't have questions, but we've had a lot of takeaways.
Okay. Sorry, Tarun, you want to ask something? Sorry, we are running late of time. So those of you who are, if you want to drop out, please feel free. There is nothing. You can please drop out. Tarun, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Sharad, Khushboo, and Dhananjay. Very interesting and very insightful. Sharad, so I was just reading your book, and so I found it quite interesting and a lot of anecdotes as you have throughout the book, and it goes as a storyline, very interesting. You connect one thing to another and so on. But one thing which I found very unusual and also very interesting was about the content aspect of the book. So every chapter I don't know even whether it is called chapter or not, but it is like childish one, childish two, and in each childish, then there are this one word. So I was just trying to see that what is the connection to that? Like, is there a story behind it, or is there a thought behind it? I'm sure there will be something, but obviously I haven't read the complete book, so probably the answer might be hidden in the book itself. But I found it very interesting, but wondering that what is it all about. So
Yeah, so I mean, each chapter is called childish because we have the word childish is actually identified as someone who is, doing something stupid or something like that. I would actually, if I had to say someone doing something stupid, I would say adultish. I would not want to call it childish because child does not do stupid. We can't make sense of it most of the time because they are far away from the way we think. So that's why I love the word childish. I would want to glorify the word childish if I were to think in terms of legacy, which I never think ever, is that I would want to leave the word childish on a platform much higher than the pedestal we have given to it. So that's why I don't call it chapter, I call it childish, to keep reminding at every start of thing that don't go away from being a child, don't go away from a child. So that's why I call it childish. Yes, now every section is named with just a word which has no meaning hanging out, because by the end of the book, Tarun, the puzzle will be solved. So go till the end, and it's an interesting thing. So I would suggest, instead of me giving the answer, go till the end.
Yes.
So that's the short thing is, I love the world childish. I want to become childish, and I wish each one of us can. And I think the world has a future because there are lots of childish people around. Right? So let these children remain childish. I think we have a future.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Sharad. Thank you, Dhananjay. And let's take this offline. All of you can connect with either of them, me, anyone that you wish to, and drop a comment to our LinkedIn, our social profiles. We are socially available animals now. Personally, who is where, don't know, but socially available. Have a nice day. Happy weekend to everyone.
Yes. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you everyone.
Thanks DJ,
Bye.
thanks Khushboo, and thanks everyone for joining on a Sunday evening.
Thank you, Sharad.
Thank you.
Take care. Take care. Have a happy weekend.
Thank you so much. It was really interesting to listen to both of you. Bye. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.